Hey, Boomer.
Hey, good morning, man. So I know you guys lost yesterday, and I know it was a terrible loss, and you can see the difference in talent, especially at the wide receiver position. But the Jets and the Giants set football back about 50 years yesterday.
That was ugly good. It was weird. It was ugly, but it was actually interesting.
A pillow fight, if you will.
Yeah, and Zach Wilson, couple big passes when you needed him to have them.
Listen, you could say whatever you want. You could describe it how you want. That's not exactly how I would describe it. Now, it was ugly. It was raining, so I do kind of get it. But, man, there were 24 punts and 23 points scored in this game. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. And the Giants actually had -9 yards net passing. I don't think I've ever seen a game that has had a number like that.
Well, we're looking ahead to the Giants on the Patriots schedule. Can't get here soon enough.
Wow.
Well, are the Patriots in trouble? What I mean,
It's an understatement.
Thank you, Jermaine. Yes, it is an understatement, and it's sad too because what it really showed you yesterday is that all it takes is a couple plays to go the wrong way for the Patriots against the Dolphins. That's how good the Dolphins are in their building, especially in order to beat them. Can't turn the ball over. You can't make the mistake that Mac Jones made, throwing the interception to Jalen Ramsey, and you can't let Tyreek Hill get behind you. There's really every coach, and I don't know, Jermaine, if you felt this way. Maybe you do feel this way now that you're a high school coach. I'm not sure, but every coach used to tell me back in the day there were about 6 or 7 plays that would determine the outcome of the game. That's how dicey some of these plays can get, and those 2 particular plays completely changed the momentum of whatever momentum the Patriots had in yesterday's game.
So if you're Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, and you have a 4:00 deadline tomorrow, are you buying? Are you selling? Are you standing pat?
I don't think you're buying unless you really feel like you need to add some low-level player just to fill out the roster. I mean, with the injuries that they're dealing with now and a couple more guys going down yesterday, I mean, this is why you drafted, Christian Gonzalez. This is why Matt Judon is on the team, and that's in order to play against teams like Miami. Those guys are done. They're gone. 2 of the best players. I don't know who would be even remotely interesting for other teams to take off the Patriots roster at this moment, but I think the other thing you got to really be careful with, there's so many games still left. You don't want to send up the white flag in front of your fans just yet, but I don't think these teams are going to have much of a choice to make some hard decisions on players to try to acquire assets for next year's draft now.
Yeah, I think, Boomer, and we've and I'm going to keep beating the drum on this one. When you look at what you have in Mac Jones, I think they might not say it, but the decision has been made, and I don't think they feel like he's the guy. Maybe this is a point in time in your season where you look and you say, what can you get for a player like that? I know there are some teams that could use a quarterback of his caliber. And then you start back at the drawing board in the draft because it looks like you're going to have a nice high pick.
Yeah, there's going to be I think there's at least 4 quarterbacks that are going to go in the top 20 picks. You start with Caleb Williams, Drake May, of course, Quinn Ewers down at Texas, and then Michael Penix out in Washington. I think those 4 quarterbacks right now, if I had to guess, are going to be top 20 picks. Whether or not they're that much better than Mac Jones at this point, that's up to the Patriots and the powers that be to decide. But, I mean, 2-6, you're essentially halfway through the season. I would say that if they were, if they had a couple more wins, that the AFC is wide open right now. Although it looks like the Bengals have finally awoken, and if that's the case and they're going to play like they did yesterday, and they could do it for the next 8 weeks, they're going to be a bitch to handle. But as we sit here right now, the AFC is wide open, but I don't think a team with 2 wins really has a legitimate shot at the playoffs.
Is Mac Jones done here in your mind?
Well, I would say it's been really disappointing. I thought that the combination of Bill O'Brien and him, because of their familiarity with each other, and Bill being at Alabama, and of course Matt being from there, I thought maybe, just maybe, that somehow they would unlock the best of Mac Jones. We have not seen that. I think I kind of tend to agree with Jermaine here that ship may have sailed, and if it has, it's been a wild ride, that's for sure. It's been woefully inconsistent, and a lot of it is not his fault. Although I would say this year I would have expected better.
Boomer, it does seem like with him, especially yesterday after that interception, you saw a blow to his confidence. As a quarterback, what's that battle like in game, that mental battle? And if you're Mac Jones, how do you fix that?
It's Cordy, it's really tough. I would say the master of it was Tom Brady. That guy never got down on himself. And this is what, unfortunately, Mac is going to be compared to, because Brady was, in my eyes, and I've said this many times, so I'm not saying this for the first time here, the greatest motivator of himself that I've ever seen. And, that was the slamming of the Surface books on the sideline. That was, slamming down the headsets, maybe yelling at a coach. He always got himself back into a game. And then he would get into his teammates' faces, too. And I would just say that when you compare that to what Mac Jones looks like, acts like, and sounds like, it's completely so foreign to even imagine how dedicated Tom Brady was to the position and to the game itself, that a lot of these kids can't live up to that kind of expectation.
Boomer, how did the Patriots get to this point where the lack of talent is so evident in every game they play inside their own division? I just don't understand how we're sitting here after 8 weeks, and the coaching could be better. Mac could be better. There's a lot of players that need to improve. But just looking at the talent gap, specifically on offense, between the Dolphins and the Patriots, it's like a college and a pro team.
Well, it's speed. They're not a very fast team. I think we talked about this probably in week 1 and week 2, that after their loss to Miami initially, you could just see the speed disparity on the field. And I know that they've drafted some players that haven't come through for them. I also know that they're dealing with some significant injuries on defense. But I think it's the roster, and you got to look at it. You got to really be honest with yourself and say, okay, do we have anybody that can stay with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and, Raheem Mostert? And, Devin Achane wasn't even on the field yesterday, and he may be the fastest out of all of them. But I think it really comes down to speed. This league is built on speed. The rules are made for wide receivers to be able to get off the line of scrimmage and make the spectacular plays that they do make. But it is a big disparity between the Patriots and a lot of other teams, especially the upper echelon teams, where they have big-time wide receivers making plays each and every week, and you can see it. And you don't see that from the Patriots on a consistent basis. So I think it is really a matter of the roster, who's on the roster, and just how slow that roster seems to look against some teams, especially against the faster ones like Miami.
Did you think the response to Juju's hit on Jones was warranted by the Dolphins players, or do you think that was all blown out of proportion?
I think some of it gets blown out of proportion, but I also know that, this game is played at a fever pitch. The intensity is hard to even explain to somebody who hasn't been in the middle of it. All I could tell you is that sometimes players do things that, are not who they are. But I also do know that the reactions sometimes are because of, the testosterone and the intensity that is just overflowing in games like this, especially when a team feels like it's getting embarrassed.
The question of the week for Boomer is brought to you by McFarland Energy, the trusted source in Greater Boston, the North Shore, and all of Cape Cod for home heating, oil delivery, and HVAC work. This one is for Shime. Boomer, with that Chiefs loss, are the Ravens the best team in the AFC?
I think right now you could say that, yes, and they have played the most consistent football over the last 5 to 6 weeks. And Lamar Jackson's back to his MVP self. So I would say right now, the Ravens are the best team. They also have a murderous schedule, as they all do, especially in that AFC North. But, everybody in the AFC North right now has a winning record. So they're going to have to go through that gauntlet yet. The Jaguars are pretty good, too, by the way. So, and I'm not counting Kansas City out just because they finally lost one game to the Denver Broncos. But that was a really interesting game yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw any of it. But finally, the Broncos put 4 quarters together, and I think it's going to come out today that Patrick Mahomes was dealing with the flu, I think. So that could have had something to do with his performance yesterday as well.
Boomer, I get what you're saying about the speed being an issue, but I also find out sometimes that could be a cop-out, because if you look at this Patriots team and through the first half of this game, first 3 quarters, I mean, defensively, they did a great job. They turned the ball over. They come out with a turnover to start the second half. I just think when you look at your offense, it's just the inconsistency of execution. And I think that's the biggest theme with this team moving forward. Bill can still coach, but I just think your offensive coaching, players, everything is just inconsistent when it comes to their execution.
I'm not sure how many points Tom Brady averaged as the starting quarterback of the Patriots. I'm sure it's somewhere north of 24, I would think, per game. Didn't turn the ball over a lot, and if he did turn the ball over, he came right back and got a touchdown. That's not who Mac Jones is. I think they have like a minus, 95 or 90 or something when it comes to point differential. And a lot of those points are coming off of turnovers, or they're keeping themselves from scoring because of those turnovers. And who's committing most of the turnovers? It's the quarterback. And when the quarterback does commit turnovers, like he did yesterday, that turned the tide of that game, or when he's turning the ball over and the other team is scoring when they get that turnover, I think that right there is the number that everybody should be alarmed about, because the quarterback has got to be as clean as possible when he's playing and not turning the ball over. And again, I go back to Tom Brady. That's why he was so great. I mean, he was so great, so determined, and that's unfortunately that's not who Mac is as a player or I know he's dedicated to the game. He just doesn't have that same level of, I think, consistency certainly, and the dedication that Tom Brady showed for all those years.
When it comes to your Mahomes scoop, can we blame Taylor Swift in some way? Like, did she give the flu to Brittany Mahomes, and then that's what brought it into the locker room? Is that possible?
Either that or maybe Travis Kelce going to the World Series. I mean, I don't know. This is crazy. I mean, players doing things that I never thought in my wildest dream of doing when I was playing. Like, I was always worried about getting enough sleep and eating right and all that other crap. Never thought that I would get on a private jet and go fly to a World Series game before a weekend game against one of the division rivals.
All right, Boomer. Well, thanks for taking the time this morning. We will talk to you again next week.